Good morning, my friends. Afternoon. Let's check what time it is. Pacific time, United States. Pacific time in the United States, it is 12:20 right now. I am on the Rogue River in Oregon. In 4 hours, we will be at Olala Reservoir, outside of Toledo, where I was born. So, I'm going to do some driving through some beautiful country, and I will either see you at a couple little stops or I will see you there. We're headed out to the Oregon coast. Headed out to Newport, to Toledo. There was just a tiny town of Toledo by the pulp mill. That's where we had the house that I was born into. Well, I was born into a house built on the back of a truck, but then we got that one. I just went by the Mary's Peak turnoff. Me and my mom and dad would go up there and do donuts in the snow. In the Volvo and his truck. We're about 30 miles away from where we're going to turn off and go up to Lake Olala. I guess it's Olala Reservoir, but we called it Lake Olala back in the day. Welcome to Lincoln County. I was born in Lincoln City Hospital in 1977. It's been, since before Olive was born, it's been 15 years since I was here, and there's not a cloud in the sky. So, I don't know if you know Oregon, or Oregon sunshine, but it ain't the yellow kind, it's the rainy kind. Look at that. It's a pretty rare thing. So here's the story. In 1977, my parents had left the Siskiyou Mountains where they were trying to be gold miners, being part of a Back to the Land movement community that had formed in those mountains. A bunch of rugged people, a lot of them still in the area, now condensed down to the surrounding towns and other places. There was a real crackdown by the federal government, just to keep this story short and sweet about that. And a lot of people had to leave those mountains. It was time. The politics had changed. It was the late 70s. And so my parents, my mom and dad, and their best friends, all went up to Oregon. And that's where I was conceived. My dad had built a tiny home, is what you'd call it now, a little house on the back of an international flatbed truck, and that's what they were living in, and worked at the tides, and worked at the Bay Haven downtown. My dad worked at the scallop factory when Newport had its scallop run. Anyhow, I was born Lincoln City Hospital. We lived around here in the little teeny tiny town of Toledo. My dad had managed to rent a little house he was leasing and fixing up and thought that he was going to be able to stay at. And that actually ended up falling through, as things in life will. And so my dad, having a child, and I think at some point they had let the truck go with the house on it, and so they needed to have a place to stay, they needed a place to live. So what they did, because it was the late 70s, and this was far out back in the day, this was the Oregon coast. Newport didn't look like it does now. It was teeny tiny. It was only down on the bayfront along the water. It was a working, like I said, my dad worked at the scallop factory there. It was a cannery row. It was a real working town with a muddy, well, not that muddy. They have a nice aquarium. We'll have to check that. Anyhow, we ended up out here because that's what dads have to do sometimes. They had gone from living in cabins to gypsies and working and getting a house and then set back. So we ended up out here because this was way out here. This is the road to Alsea Reservoir. And back in the day, it hadn't been cut at all. And so some of my first memories, because I was literally 2 years old at the time. And yes, I do have memories because I moved down there during kindergarten to California, and I remember a lot of things before that. So one of my strongest memories is of this area, because my dad literally, that's how far out and remote it was back in those days. And we pulled down into this swamp creek and put down pallets and put the little trailer there, and we lived there. It was magical. To some of you that might sound like homeless and hobos, but it wasn't. It was magical. My front porch was pallets and a stream full of skunk cabbages and just the most beautiful stuff. And so on my 3rd birthday, my grandfather drove up from down in Napa, California, where he had gotten his property, where my dad had left and come up here from originally. And he came to visit for my birthday, and he was on a road trip to Alaska. And he had a boat on top of his gray van. It was my 3rd birthday, and we put the boat in. I'll finish the story up there. It's beautiful. It's just as lush as you can get. Look, we are knee deep in ferns And if you look off into here, it is just primeval. But look at this. I know I have a story to finish. Look at this. This one tree stands out on this whole road. It's crazy. Look at that. Look at all the others around here. These are the same varieties, and it's also marked with this big one. My dad pitched up our little trailer and our pallets. What are you that's squirming in the water here? That's Oregon for you. Do you see that there is a bunch of newts that appear to be wrestling together here in the water? I'm sure they're fine, but this entire puddle has 1,000 newts in it. These are the areas that I first remember living in, and every single drop of the ground here, and this is early spring, so this all gets deeper and deeper and deeper, but it is just all violets and cabbages and and then these are the little streams. This very stream, we had little bridges across it, and my grandpa taught me to crawdad fish when he came up here to visit by picking them out with our hands, and we had quite the feed, and that's when I became a crawdad fisherman, a crayfish, what are they called, yowies, all the different names for them, I don't know. Look at the life, just this mud puddle. You realize when people drive through here, they're driving through 100 newts. I don't know if that's picking it up, but they are in there. I love the lushness. Hi, can I grab your chest real quick? I know I'm not really supposed to. Hi. Jeez. Hi. 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 Okay, let's set him here and watch him crawl back in. That'll be better. It says cheese. They swim so much faster. But yeah, that's who's lurking on the bottom out here everywhere. Sacred tree. Look at you. Do you see that? Gosh. Thank you for taking this walk with me. You understand, yeah, and I think you could drive out here farther back in the day and there was low dirt spots. Let's go look at the skunks. Early spring, look at this vegetation. Everything is just... If you could smell that, it's crazy. Look at the size of that. Look at the size of that. It's just crazy beautiful. They're everywhere. Hi. So, homeless is not homeless when it's like this. And I'm telling you, I remember my dad and my grandpa walking along here with me. And there's freshwater clams in here. There's crawdads in here. There's like the newts that we were just looking at. If you look over here, there's actually a shell. Frogs jumping in as we walk. Turtles. And rocks. And so here. This is where I come from. Thank you for coming with me, whoever's here. from wherever you are in the world. This is where I come from. This is the water. Look at that tree. That was a sacred tree long before even the pioneers. Yeah, maybe we'll fish this out some crawdads tomorrow. I don't know why I'm looking for signs of us from long ago. Jeez. There's an old logging road, and that is hollow rotten. It's been added to, but it is, it's not hardly there. Oh, I see the freshwater mussels sticking out here and there. Something in me really wanted to grab out a crawdad. And I am having the strongest deja vu right now that I think a person could have. So, yeah. Here's the steep, steep hills behind the road that goes up. I think we were somewhere like this. This might be it. So we would have probably rolled across there back in the day and put the camper here. This is a perfect setting. Hopefully something's not standing behind me. Look. It's a daffodil bulb. Maybe some parents that had lost their place to stay and were here with their boy. Making do. Really? Look. It's a quarter, I'm not even joking. Laying there in the dirt. Some melted glass. I'm sure this has been a camp for a long time, but I knelt down to look at the daffodil. Let me get the date off that. Well, it's probably been a home many times. Many times. Wow. So, one night when we were living here, my mom went outside of the trailer to use the restroom and came back in. And her eyes were huge, and she swears from that day that she got her first gray hairs that night. And she said that she was out there and she was kind of hunkered down, doing her business, and looking into the darkness, somewhere right here, and saw two eyeballs two huge eyeballs glowing. I don't know, maybe catching the light off of a window from the trailer. But she said that wasn't the scariest part. It was the distance between the eyes. Now, she's an Iowa farm girl, raised around animals her whole life, had just been in the Siskiyou Mountains living with bears and everything else. And she said that the distance between the eyes was massive. It was huge. That's what we call it, is big eyes. Now, my dad did scrap metal out here. This is one of the main things we did, was timber and scrap metal. It was Oregon. And so we'd drive out these roads. We spent many hours out on these weird roads. Lived out here. I'd burn up an hour explaining how like frontier my dad is. And how many big cats, bears. Any of you who have lived in bear country, you know how black bears are and stuff. You literally have to scare them off routinely. I remember my dad waking up in the morning, taking it seriously from my mom, and we climbed up to the top of this slope and we hiked along. And that's my first, besides walking on beaches with my dad and other things, I remember him carving faces in the sand cliffs, but that's my earliest hike memory because it was a big one. We climbed up and up and up, and we walked through these thick rainforest areas that you're seeing here. And he was looking for cat prints and everything else, because I think he wanted to find the cat, but I don't think that that's what he proved to himself. I'm not sure. But Big Eyes is out here. You know, Squatch, or you can see that this is primeval, just as raw as it gets, and only recently have they started logging on it again. These stumps that you see here like this are the old growth, and they are mossed over stumps. Poor old truck. Yeah, I bet you this was way more of a pasture field. I'm actually seeing that this is probably an old farmstead at one point too. We're gonna go back to the truck because it's late evening and I'm trying to make my way up to the lake itself. It's a little bit sunnier. Poor old truck. But yeah, you're seeing it now with no leaves on it. Remember that, it's early spring. So imagine how deep this is. Just try and picture how deep this is when it gets its leaves on it, when it's totally socked in. Daffodil, Mom. Maybe an old spring box, I don't know. Nice trails going up. Nice trails going up. This low canyon. Look at the size of this chunk of log sitting here. Do you see that? Do you see how massive it is? That is the end of a huge tree fallen over. They cut it. That's why it's square cut. And they never took this one out of here. Look how big that is. How many different things are living on it. Is that not incredible? How many different types of just moss. These are actual rainforests. Just like the rainforests in South and Central America. But up here. Ooh, look. Teeny tiny mountain moss. Yeah, just that log is cool. The smell, the sounds, the memories.
I'm so happy for you. I'm feeling it. I feel that you're in Newport. I feel that when you were at Lake Olalla yesterday and you said you found the 1980, I'm like, it was May 18th, 1980 that the volcano erupted. So I said, you've got is Mount St. Helens Quarter. It could have been something we dropped while we were there, but when I saw the tree and the little bridge, Bill's like, can you believe that little bridge is still there? You used to lay on your belly and then watch the water go and drop things down and get to the other side. And we can't even believe the little thing there, or the tree is there. I couldn't see if the tree was still living or not, but I'm excited for you. I love you. Happy hunting. God bless. Let me know.
And that's what we did out here. We lived good life. Ooh, snap, crackle, pop. Not sure how many more passings that has. Look at the purple of those. Those are gorgeous purple. I'm hankering to hang on to that. High Creek. Yeah, look how many of them there are here. It's kind of late in the day for spotting crawdads out, but they are here. Yeah, and just imagine being a little kid, and it doesn't get any deeper than this, just being allowed to splash down it. Look at this dead tree. And the fern roots growing through it. There's a crawdad house. Just gotta reach up under all these little areas. All these little holes. I think that's what he was showing me. Those are all crawdad holes. Now I'm remembering. Yep. Okay. Thank you, Mom, and thank you, Dad, for such an awesome start in life. That little daffodil seems really special to me. And it's spring, so I'm lucky to catch it. How many days does a daffodil stick around in the wild? In bloom. Okay. We have to keep moving. We have to keep, I've driven through 300 miles today of the most beautiful things. You could film this tree all day. Horse skull. Split in half horse skull. Horse. Huh. I don't run into those very often. But I don't know what to say about anything. I'm awestruck and I'm from here, so. You see the ferns on the branches all the way up there. That is true rainforest. Says it's just a biome of its own. Holy moly. Whew. Huh. Actually, if you see that, you see the chocolate milk in that step there? Huh. He's going that way too. Just went. Well, at least we know what he is and he knows what we are. Not joking. I'm not going to track this too far, but there's mud on those leaves. You don't have to be like a super sleuth. And because I haven't heard any big crashes or smashes since we got here either, made its getaway when we were doing car stuff, where it hasn't made its getaway and it's just watching us. Look at the elderberry. This is how much elderberry was around us. Each one of these, that's basically what fills in everything in between. And those are my... And I remember her making loads of elderberry jam. This is just all elderberry, 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 elderberry. And the road crews have been through and it's been modernized. So try and picture this. 1977, back in the day. It's probably 1980 by then. That's what the quarter was. It says 1980 on it. I was 3. We found a quarter from 1980 by the daffodil. That would have been the year I was living here. I'm not joking. If I was born in 77, I know I was 3. Because I have to finish that story. This one's going to be called The Day I Learned of Death. Oh, hi, Georgia Pacific. How you doing? Private property, no trespassing. COVID closure, keep out. Gates locked. Lots of signs. The lake is right there. Posted, no trespassing, keep out. Gate after gate, it looks like. They just can't stop people from going to the nature. These have all been placed in. Other signs look like they had a hard time. Dang. Oregonians, I'm telling you. Some wild childs. Well, maybe when we meet up with Olive, she'll want to come here and we can walk up. Or maybe we'll have to do that on another quest. This is the water that comes out of it. That is the dam, and the lake's up there. Look at this cute little dam. So I definitely won't trespass. You know me. Follow the rules. This is the very well trodden down spot, just directly next to the parking lot. These skunk cabbages smell almost like a skunk, but not quite. They smell so good. They're just, you know, that smell, it's goodness. Yeah, these are all about to open. These have the most beautiful pink flowers on them. So about death. Child of the creators. So me and my family had ferrets. We had ferrets. And they're legal here in Oregon. They look, you know, like a mink or a weasel. If you don't know what a ferret is, like a little weasel creature. And keep in mind that I was 3. I was actually 2. So my grandpa came up on his way to Alaska on his great expedition, he called it. You know, he had waited his whole life. Served in World War II, served at Mare Island Naval Base, served as a, or didn't serve, then he worked as a bunch of things. He raised 4 boys. He was an engineer. He built a lot of the big highway parts. Columbus Parkway, stuff like that. So he was on his way north. I was here, I was with my dad, I'm 2. We go out in the boat. It's the 3 of us. Beautiful little reservoir. It's just, they've dammed this little canyon here. It's deep and trees hang over it. Deep, deep trees. And so we're paddling along. We go to the deep side by where the banks come down. Total Goonies reservoir, you know, like a little spooky. And there's something floating in the water, so we go over to it. We paddle by it, I guess, because we're fishing. And I see that it's some sort of little creature, you know, like a mole, gopher, some sort of rat. And it's drowned, and it's dead, and it's floating in the water. Up until this point in life, I hadn't seen anything die. I know all this because I remember this day. I remember it as clearly as I'm telling you right now. It's been with me every day since, so absolutely true. Absolutely true. And I say, I'm sitting in between my grandpa at one end of a little rowboat, a dinghy, my dad at the other end on a lake, sun shining. It's my 3rd birthday. And I say, I don't know what exactly, honestly. Why isn't it alive? I didn't use the word alive, you know, as learning to talk. What's going on with this? And my grandpa, who was military man, kind of, you know, matter of fact, been raised on ranches in Montana, so he just laid it out to me basically. But he's also, you know, born and raised Christian man, and so incorporated into it, of course, was the story of the Christian afterlife, heaven, all of that. My first introduction to that, but ended up explaining, you know, with my dad also saying, yeah, and like our ferrets at home, everything has an end to when it'll be alive. And my brain spun like, alive? What's this alive thing? Alive is what we are. And that was the day that it was explained to me, right then and there, that ends. And we can all sit around with that, you know. That's one of the 3 big ones. What came before everything? What's beyond the edge of everything? And we have to die. You know, if those haven't sat you up a few nights in life, just trying to figure out how to go back to sleep. Yeah. You get the point, we all get the point. That's one thing we share in common. Doesn't matter where you come from, what you are, what you think. We all have the same day waiting for us. Sorry. So, all I remember, truly remember, I can fill in the rest, but I remember being home, here somewhere, and going to sleep, and it was the first night in my life that I thought about when I was gonna die, about when my parents were gonna die. Now, this may sound heavy and sad. It's not. We all had this day. That's another one that we all share. This is the day that we realize we're gonna die. And it may have slipped in there somewhere on you. Or you might remember it. It was years later, after I was over 18 years old, when I was thinking about it. And I remembered the discussion, and then that's when I turned to the person I was with and I said, you know, I remember the day that I learned about death, the day, and it was my 3rd birthday, and I was here. And this isn't a story about death. And this isn't a story about death. What that did for me was it, you know, they say every day is a good day to die. An old native saying, I guess. I might be hacking that one up. I understood it very early on. It's not a suicidal thing. It's not a dour thing. It's not a dark thing. It means, look, even if you had one day, it'd be better than not. Because this place is beautiful. That's my solid belief that this is heaven. And we're blessed to be here. And I was clear on it. And for some reason, maybe learning it early on like that, I don't know when we all learn it, but it's a driving force. So, that's what I meant to do here. I meant to drive here. I meant to tell you that story. Whoever's listening, whatever you think about it, that's what it is. And now I've told it, and there you go. And I'm double blessed because I get to tell it, and because you're there. So thank you. It's time for me to go get some dinner. I'm going to go out to the coast. I think I'm not going to go down to the waterfront tonight. I will do another video on that. There is a bunch of rock hunting coming up, and treasure hunting and exploring. This road trip is not over yet. Trip's not over till it's over. Let's get back on the bus and keep moving.